inquiry. Madam Speaker, I just don't understand how that is going to provide immediate relief to Canadians. And I'm surprised that actually came from the Conservatives, because the Conservatives are usually about smaller government, and now they're proposing a bureaucracy to look into how we could reduce the amount of, make sure that housing affordability is available through a public inquiry. Come on, Madam Speaker.
Unfortunately, the Honourable, we have to go to statements by members, and the Honourable Member will have 6 minutes when he continues his speech here in the House. Statements by members, déclaration de députés, and I would just ask members who are coming in to please keep it down a bit, because individuals are going to be doing, parliamentarians are going to be doing their statements. The Honourable Member for Kitchener Centre.
They were going for a walk. Salman, Madiha, Talat, Yumna, Faiz. A year ago, 3 generations of the Afzal family were victims of an Islamophobic terror attack in London, Ontario, just down the road from us in Waterloo region. 4 were murdered simply for being Muslim, while Faiz was left orphaned and injured. Yesterday, the Coalition of Muslim Women of Kitchener-Waterloo held a vigil to mark this difficult anniversary as our community continues to stand in solidarity with our neighbors in London. We must all recognize white supremacy kills. Islamophobia kills. We must denounce all forms of racism, Islamophobia, and xenophobia. But words aren't enough. All levels of government must act more quickly to eradicate Islamophobia and ensure this never happens again.
For London West.
It's been a year since the Afzal family was tragically murdered while walking in Hyde Park. Salman loved gardening, Yumna loved art, Madiha loved caring for others, and Talat simply loved her grandchildren. The void they left on this earth is immeasurable. It was felt during the many events honoring their lives that I attended over the weekend. In 9 months after this tragedy, Yumna's friend founded YCCI, a youth-led organization to combat Islamophobia in Canada by offering key educational material to teach us how to see the human behind the hijab. The Youth Coalition Combating Islamophobia made it very clear that they will not stop until this country is safe for Muslim families and all families. They made it clear that their love for Yumna is what drives their work. But it is not all that they've said, Mr. Speaker. They've asked that I remind this place how much they've accomplished in the last few months, and that we reflect on as a collective and look amongst ourselves to reflect on how we can continue to build on what they've started. But Mr. Speaker, they've also asked that I let all members of this place know that they never want to plan another vigil. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bravo. The Honourable Member for Provencher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The goal of this Liberal government is the redistribution of wealth. That's not just me saying that, Mr. Speaker. That's directly from former Liberal Finance Minister Bill Morneau, who said he was forced to spend way too much energy finding ways to redistribute wealth. The redistribution of wealth, that's the goal of this Prime Minister and his Liberal cronies. Well, now it all makes sense. That's why he wants to tax the principal residents of Canadians. That's why he wants to shut down our energy sector. That's why he keeps attacking small businesses. It's why he continues to double down on his carbon tax, the biggest wealth redistribution scheme they've concocted yet. They want to pick the winners and the losers. They want control, control, control. Why else are China, North Korea, and Canada the only countries to have ridiculous vaccine mandates and restrictions? The Prime Minister took advantage of COVID to pick winners and losers, not only in the economy, but in society. As Canadians struggle, this government is doing cartwheels because everything is going according to their redistribution plan. It's time for the nonsense to end.
Honourable Member for Brampton South.
Time for your lying.
Today, I want to recognize in this House someone who worked very hard in the region of Peel to ensure the good health of our residents. Peel has one of the hardest hit regions in this pandemic, and our medical officer of health, Dr. Lawrence Lowe, worked tirelessly on vaccination, isolation centers, mental health, and wellness. I had the opportunity to work with him through the Health Committee, where we got valuable grassroots feedback from Dr. Loh, which set us on the path of recovery. Thanks to Dr. Loh's leadership, more than 90% of eligible Peel residents over 12 are double vaccinated, and Brampton became a national leader in vaccination. This fall, Dr. Loh will be stepping into a new role, and I send him my best wishes on behalf of all Brampton residents. We are very grateful for the service and dedication of Dr. Loh and his team, and all of the frontline health workers. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Shefford.
The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, in June we are celebrating Pride Month. What a justified sentiment for all members of the LGBTQ+ community. You have followed a lengthy path and you have accomplished so much. You have struggled for decriminalization and equality. You have fought with determination, courage, and tenderness. The LGBTQ+ community is an example to be followed in fighting peacefully, in finding a positive way to ask for rights. There is a great deal to be proud of. June is Pride Month, the month to be proud of who we are, how we live, who we love, and proud to love. One can have a great deal of pride resting on two important emotions, self-affirmation and love. In Quebec, we tend to have Pride celebrations in August, rather, at a time when our cities are full of sun, bright colors, and rainbow flags. Everyone gets out on the street for parades and celebrate the joy and pride of being who we are. Happy Pride Month.
Le député de Louis Hébert.
The honourable member for Louis Hébert. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lawyers Without Borders Canada is celebrating its 20th anniversary. For more than 20 years, Lawyers Without Borders has been working to ensure that fundamental freedoms are respected and promoted. With its roots in beautiful Quebec City, these exceptional legal experts and volunteers are giving a voice to victims of serious human rights violations who often don't have a voice. Whether in Africa, Latin America, or the Caribbean, their dynamic team is standing up to impunity in all its forms and creating more justice in the world. I'd like to make special mention of Pascal Paradis, Executive Director and co-founder of the organization. He left the stability of a large law firm in order to make his convictions a driving force for change. Long live Lawyers Without Borders Canada. Thank you for making Canada shine through your commitment, intelligence, and humanism.
Member for Peterborough, Kawartha.
If you want our country to recover mentally and financially, we need to support our tourism sector. We hear the Liberals tell us the pandemic is not over and people are dying from COVID. But why aren't they talking about the people who are dying from stress-induced diseases because they've lost their business, their job, and their livelihoods because of the unnecessary restrictions? Independent duty-free shops located at land borders are in a crisis, and they need help now. Before COVID, the average wait time at a land border was 45 seconds per vehicle. Today, it can be as long as 38 minutes. Every second counts to move people and help our tourism sector recovery. Today, I implore the Liberal government to immediately step up and help our land border crossings and all the locally owned tourism businesses that benefit from them. The Liberal government has two options. Number one, create further debt for both the business owners and Canadians and provide more loans so they can survive. Or two, do the right thing and lift restrictions and barriers like the ArriveCan app, restore travel confidence, and show the world Canada is open for business.
The honourable member for Scarborough North.
Mr. Speaker, at the end of this month, thousands of Hakka people from around the world will descend upon Markham, Ontario, for the 31st World Hakka Conference. As a proud Canadian of Hakka Chinese descent, I'm honored and privileged to welcome everyone attending this first ever global Hakka event in Canada. Recognizing our rich and diverse histories, cultures, and traditions, this is an opportunity to celebrate the unique achievements of the Hakka peoples while reflecting on the challenges we have faced along the way. Allow me to recognize the Hakka Canadian Association and its chair, Markham Regional Councillor Joe Lee, who has been instrumental in organizing this monumental occasion. To the many Hakka diasporas visiting Canada from around the world, welcome and enjoy all that this beautiful country has to offer. Together, let us honor the HaCA spirit and cherish the values that unite us. Thank you. Merci.
Before we go on to the next one, I just want to call order and make sure that everyone can hear the statements. These are very important statements to the individual MPs who make them. So if you can keep the talk maybe just down a little bit so that we can all hear them. The Honourable Member for Aurora Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We don't give people with developmental disabilities enough credit. You never know what is possible until people are given the opportunity. This quote by a business owner who hired persons with disabilities could not better describe my cousin Gwen, who we lost in May of 2021, just over a year ago. When she was born, her parents were told it was best if she'd be institutionalized. But with their bottomless love and dedication, Gwen went on to live a full life, and we still miss her indefatigable joy. Community living, which serves York Region, was an important support for Gwen and her family, as was her associate family, and they enabled her to be integrated into the community. Last week, my parents and I visited community living to see the tree planted on their grounds in honor of Gwen. While there, we had the pleasure of talking to CEO Andrew Fagan. He explained how organizations such as his play a critical role in the health and well-being of persons with disability. My father was a member of the board of the organization since 1961. Our government is committed to becoming a more accessible, more disability-inclusive Canada, but this can't happen without all of us doing our part. Thank you. Merci.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Today, I would like to express my pride in welcoming the 49er NARCA World Championship Sailing Competition to my beautiful riding of South Shore St. Margaret's from August 31st to September 5th. This international sailing regatta will bring the best competitors in the world to my own backyard in St. Margaret's Bay, hosted by the community of Hubbards. This World Championship will see a field of 400 sailors from over 35 countries, competing in 3 Olympic classes, the wickedly fast 49er, the 49er FX, and the NARCA 17. I know that residents in my community are eager to host the thousands of visitors and spectators we will bring to our community. As a sailor myself, I look forward not only to appreciating the hard work and dedication of these athletes, but cheering on our own team of Canadian competitors. I encourage others to show their support for our Canadian team in their mission to take home the gold in this World Championship event.
The Honourable Member for St. John's East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and welcome back. As we near the end of this session of the 44th Parliament, I would like to extend my appreciation to the residents of St. John's East. It's been a busy 9 months, and I look forward to seeing many of you soon. This summer, I will be on the ground celebrating funding announcements, meeting with seniors, businesses, local service centres, not-for-profits, and as many residents as I can. Your voice matters, and I'm here to work with you and hear your needs and concerns. Thank you to my team for your shared commitment and dedication to the people who call this riding home. To the Prime Minister and the many ministers who've demonstrated their support for my work and the riding through visits and in-person announcements, thank you. To my family and all those who have sent notes of concerns, encouragement, and offers to help, your support has not gone unnoticed. We work best when we work together, and I'm excited to see all of you in the riding this summer. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Coast of Bay Central, Notre Dame.
Mr. Speaker, flying the provincial flag at half-mast in Newfoundland and Labrador on June 5th had an extra special meaning, as this was the day we lost its creator, Mr. Christopher Pratt. Mr. Pratt, a proud Newfoundlander and Labradorian, an artist, and one of Canada's prominent painters, printmakers, and designer of our Newfoundland and Labrador flag, will be sorely missed. Born in St. John's in 1935, Mr. Pratt first started painting watercolors in 1952. He served on many committees, including the Canadian Government Stamp Design Advisory Committee and the board of the Canada Council for the Arts. In 1973, he was appointed an Officer of the Order of Canada, and before becoming a Companion of the Order in 1983. He was awarded the Order of Newfoundland and Labrador in 2018. Not only was he known for his brilliant artwork, but also for his great sense of humour. On behalf of the House of Commons of Canada, I offer sincere condolences to the Pratt family as we say goodbye to this legendary Canadian who left his mark on our great province.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
I am honoured to pay tribute to Canada's Senior Army Reserve Infantry Regiment, the Governor General's Foot Guards, as they celebrate their 150th anniversary of their founding on June 7th, 1872. The Foot Guards have a proud history as old as Canada itself. The Guards have fought in every war that Canada has been a part of, and its members have received the highest decorations, including 2 Victoria Crosses and 34 battle honours. During the Second World War, the Guards fought their way from the beaches of Normandy to the liberation of the Netherlands. The Guards have also served in many United Nations and NATO operations, including service in Afghanistan, the former Yugoslavia, Somalia, and Cyprus. Guards have also answered the call to help Canadians affected by severe flooding, forest fires, and the pandemic. The Guards are also well known for their annual ceremonial guard. The changing of the Guard ceremony on Parliament Hill is greatly anticipated by Canadians and tourists alike, and I know we all look forward to it coming back next year. As a proud Foot Guard myself, please join me in paying tribute to the Governor General's Foot Guards on this milestone of 150 years of service to Canada. Happy birthday to the regiment. Up the Guards.
Up the Guards. L'honorable député de Longueuil.
The honourable member for Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, the Gala Mérite of Longueuil National Aeronautics School rewards students each year. This year, the school, which is affiliated with Édouard Montpetit Cégep, had a record number of participating companies. This made possible $45,000 in scholarships. The generosity of companies in the aerospace industry made it possible to offer more than 50 scholarships to as many students. This record represents a concrete commitment from valuable partners who are offering students full recognition and real support in their academic journey.
Mr. Speaker, concrete recognition of this kind can have a huge impact on a student's progress and perseverance. I applaud the aerospace firms that provided these bursaries for their foresight in investing in the future. Toutes mes félicitations.
Congratulations to the students, the participating companies, and the National Aeronautics School for its essential contributions to our aerospace cluster. Thank you.
The honourable member for Elmwood-Transcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Even though the pandemic's not entirely behind us, it's heartening to see more things return to normal. On Saturday, I enjoyed spending time with my family at Transcona's High Neighbor Festival after pancake breakfast at the Legion. Baba's Kitchen was back in action and as delicious as ever. On Sunday, I was pleased to join with tens of thousands of people in Winnipeg for the Winnipeg Pride Parade. And next weekend, I look forward to celebrating with people in Elmwood as Happy Days on Henderson makes its return after a 2-year hiatus. As usual, there'll be live music, children's games, and a lot more. Winnipeg had a long, cold winter, and it's been a difficult year so far. As the little bit of sunshine we're getting now warms our face, these events are helping to warm our hearts. Thank you to all the amazing people who've worked hard to put these events back together.
L'honorable député de Repentigny.
The honourable member for Repentigny. During the night of June 25th to 26th, there will be a nighttime tennis challenge in my riding to benefit the Kidney Foundation. The event will take place with tennis players from all over Quebec competing on the court in solidarity with people with kidney disease, many of whom undergo dialysis at night. Dialysis is not a solution. Transplants do not necessarily guarantee a cure, and that is why this sporting event will raise awareness of the kidney's essential role. The funds raised will allow thousands of people suffering from kidney disease or waiting for a transplant to hope for better days. In Quebec, more than 550,000 people suffer from kidney failure, with 1,300 in the Lanaudière region, and that is only going to increase because American studies show a very clear association between the increase in fine particle levels due to pollution and the risk of developing chronic renal failure. If you want to participate in the event, I invite you to visit the website tennisnocturne.ca.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
This past Sunday at St. Francis Xavier Church in Owo, Nigeria, as the choir was singing the closing hymns for their Pentecost celebration, gunmen commenced what would be a massacre on the gathered faithful. For 20 minutes, the gunman fired. Children running to their parents had their last breaths snatched away. Survivors saw lifelong friends, neighbors, and family members murdered. When the vicious attack was finished, at least 50 men, women, and children lay dead. These innocent people were murdered for carrying out their faith, for simply being Catholic. At Pentecost, we celebrate the fullness of the Paschal mystery and the birthday of our church. For this holy day to be chosen for the attack is beyond heinous. More and more we see churches burnt down and vandalized, Catholic holy sites desecrated, and far too often, Catholics killed for their faith. We must call out hate anytime it's manifested with words or with actions. Nobody should be targeted or made to feel inferior because they live their faith. I ask Canadians and all members in this place to join me in praying for the victims and their families during this unthinkable hardship.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Halifax West.
Monsieur le Président, je me lève aujourd'hui pour...
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate Edward Labad from Halifax West as he graduates from secondary school. He is an exceptional student, an accomplished athlete, and he has been legally blind since birth.
The assistant captain of the Sea Kings hockey team competed in the 2022 Canadian Blind National Hockey Tournament in Toronto, where he played as junior defense alongside his more senior teammates and won the gold medal. And just last month, Edward was off to Mississauga to play goalball with the Nova Scotia junior team at the Ontario Parasport Games. He was the heart of his team and once again returned home with a gold medal in hand. Throughout Edward's academic life, his proud parents, Peter and Rita, have been his biggest supporters. Mr. Speaker, the sky is the limit for Edward, and I ask all parliamentarians to join me in congratulating him on his graduation and applauding his success. Thank you.
Oral questions. Question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister has jetted off on another international trip. No airport lineups for him, and I bet we're going to see some more pictures of him with his mask off, having a great time. He flaunts the personal freedoms he's enjoying abroad, while back here, Canadians are suffering under his out-of-date restrictions. Tourism, federal employees, small businesses, families, all are suffering. They're all pawns in the Prime Minister's COVID game. Isn't it true the Prime Minister knows he needs to lift these restrictions, but he would rather do COVID theatre than do what's right?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And from the beginning of this pandemic, we've been there for Canadians. And of course, it's the Prime Minister's job and obligation to travel to other countries to do his important work. But when we hear the opposition speak positively about public health measures but badly about vaccination, it confuses the public. We should be encouraging our neighbours to consider a third or a fourth dose. We cannot have relaxed public health measures and more freedom without vaccination as COVID-19 continues to progress, but we all have an obligation to ensure that our neighbours are aware of the opportunity for a third dose. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, Canadians would like to be planning their summer vacation right now, but too many are focused on how they're going to be able to afford fuel for their cars or feed their families. Over 20% of Canadians are actually skipping a meal in order to save money. The Liberal solution? Blame. Blame COVID. Blame Putin. Blame Conservatives. Well, today our Conservative caucus motion provides real solutions so Canadians can take that summer trip, send their kids to camp, and not worry about missing a flight. Will the Liberals support giving Canadians a break, or are they going to double down on that vindictive, petty approach?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Speaker, we absolutely understand that affordability matters for Canadians, and that's why we are taking action by increasing the Canada Workers' Benefit. This year, a family of 3 is getting $2,300 more. by increasing the OAS for seniors 75 and over by 10% this year, Mr. Speaker, and with a $500 top-up, Mr. Speaker, for people facing housing affordability challenges.
Leader of the Opposition.
It's great. A few piddly checks that might dribble in through the mail, and this government thinks that that has having any impact on what Canadians are dealing with. I'll tell you, Mr. Speaker, 38% of Canadians are worried more about money than anything else that they're dealing with. So these Liberal checks that are coming from the pockets of Canadians because their taxes are going up are doing absolutely nothing. But these Liberals are so massively out of touch. They don't understand gas prices. They don't understand high food prices. They don't understand long lineups. They understand nothing about what Canadians are dealing with, and they don't care.
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me tell you what is out of touch. What is out of touch is for someone who lives in government accommodation to suggest that a check for $2,300 for a family of three working at the minimum wage is piddly. It is out of touch to suggest that for a senior over 75 to get an additional $815 is piddly. This is real support for the Canadians who need it most.
Hear, hear. Okay, we'll continue.
The Honourable Member from Mégantic-L'Érable. Since the crisis, we've realized that the Minister of Finance is completely disconnected from the reality of Canadians. Gas prices aren't too high for her. It's the fault of Russia, the pandemic, and even Canadians. And today, they reproach the Conservatives proposing a motion to ask them to take action to give help to all Canadians who are having a hard time paying their bills at the end of the month, Mr. Speaker. We want to help Canadians, but are they going to continue their vindicative games that are giving a hard time to Canadians? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives like to quote reports from the Parliamentary Budget Officer. So today I will quote the PBO, who today spoke about inflation. And here's what he said. The resurgence of high inflation can be attributed to COVID-19 more recently and to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. This drove up inflationary pressure. That is it, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member from Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, for a Canadian worker, for any Canadian, the reason behind this inflation and why everything costs more is not what matters. It's what matters is they can pay food at the end of the month. They want to be able to allow all their children to eat enough at the end of the month. They want to be able to go to work and to pay for the gas to get there. Whether it's the pandemic or COVID behind this or any other reason, the Liberals say, what matters to them is they need help right now. Why are they so disconnected from the reality of Canadians? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, that's simply not true. The reality is that we understand full well that affordability is very important for Canadian families, and that's exactly why we took measures such as increasing the Canada Workers' Benefit, which will give a lone worker of $1,000 or more. We're looking at another $500 for people who are having a hard time finding housing. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers are furious about the delays in obtaining their passports. Even in the middle of a crisis, there's no passport office open on weekends, even for people who have to leave the country within 48 hours. Imagine they force people who have been waiting for 3 months to miss a day of work to apply for emergency passport. And even worse, they charge $50 to $100 in additional fees. It's crazy. They're making citizens pay the price for their incompetence. Will they open offices on weekends and process urgent requests without charge? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I've already said in this chamber, we have seen an unprecedented increase in demands for passports, but people still shouldn't be charged for an urgent request if it's outside of service days. And also, there are some dozen offices that are open almost every Saturday, so we can meet the urgent demand. Thank you. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. They're saying they're doing everything they can, as long as it's 8 to 4 and at the citizens' expense. This is indecent. They need to open their offices on weekends for people who have to travel within 48 hours. They need to abolish the extra fees for people who have applied and are still waiting past the 20 days. When will they actually do everything they can to make up for their mistakes and deliver the passports on time and without charge? This is enough. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I've already said, these fees should not be charged if the passport is within 20 days. I'll reiterate that. I know that workers at Service Canada are working very hard. They're working evenings and weekends so that they can serve Canadians, and they are there, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure Canadians do receive their passports before they travel.
Burnaby South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 1 out of every 4 Canadian in this country is going hungry because they cannot afford their groceries. At the same time, corporations are making record profits. They're breaking record after record. Our plan is to tax the excess.
I'm going to ask the Honourable Member to start from the top so that we can all hear his question. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
I just mentioned that Canadians are hungry, and I hear laughter in the chambers. Yeah. They should be ashamed of themselves. Ashamed of themselves. One out of every 4 Canadians is hungry because they cannot afford their groceries, while corporations are making record profits and are responsible for 1/4 of the inflation that Canadians are experiencing. Our plan is to tax the excess profits of these corporations and put the money directly into the pockets of Canadians who need it. When will this government stop protecting the wealth of these corporations and start standing up for families who need help right now?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government is absolutely committed to being sure everyone in Canada pays their fair share. And we have taken concrete action, Mr. Speaker. We have permanently raised the corporate income tax on the largest and most profitable banks and insurance companies in Canada by 1.5%. We are introducing a Canada Recovery Dividend on banks and insurance companies of 15%. And, Mr. Speaker, we are putting in place a luxury tax on cars and planes worth more than $100,000 and boats worth more than $250,000.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South.
We need to expand that tax that's been proposed for banks onto the profitable oil and gas sector, corporate big box stores who are making record profits while Canadians are hungry and can't afford their food. Un quart des Canadiens.
1/4 of Canadians are going hungry because they cannot afford groceries. At the same time, corporations are making record profits. Our plan is to tax excess profits, and we need to redistribute these profits right back to the pockets of Canadians. When will this government protect the interests of families rather than protecting the profits of big corporations? The Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, our commitment has made a commitment to having everyone pay their fair share of taxes, and we have taken concrete measures, such as permanently increasing the corporate income tax rate for banks and insurance companies that are most profitable, and by introducing a 15% Canada recovery dividend on banks and insurance companies.
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, almost every G7 country has a plan to deal with high gas prices and runaway inflation. For example, Germany has a $16 billion plan to lower gas prices. The Americans have released their strategic reserve. Even the British government has cut gas taxes and are considering more. From our Prime Minister, a word salad. Besides blaming Putin or suggesting people to buy an electric vehicle, can the Prime Minister cobble together a plan to deal with rising gas prices, or is that just way too much to ask of him as a leader of a G7 country?
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
You know, Mr. Speaker, the party that needs a coherent policy is the Conservative Party, and it just doesn't have one. As usual, they are failing to pick a lane on fiscal policy. Half of the time, the Conservatives like to talk about deficits and complain about government spending. But the other half of the time, like just now, they praise expensive multi-billion-dollar programs put in place by the governments of other countries. So really, what is the fiscal policy of the Conservative Party of Canada?
The Honourable Member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Mr. Speaker, despite having lower gas prices, the Americans have acted to help struggling families to fill their tanks and keep life affordable. This Prime Minister likes to import the divisive politics that occur to the south of our border and claims if we don't act firmly and rapidly, it will only get worse and be more difficult to counter. As our largest importer of American politics, when will our Prime Minister finally try to import something positive, like helping Canadians deal with gas prices?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Certainly, as the honourable colleague knows, the current situation in Ukraine and the unprovoked attack by Russia has resulted in a geopolitical crisis in Europe and elevated energy prices around the world. While Canada's energy security remains intact, we are working with our international allies, very much with our friends in the United States, to stabilize energy markets around the world. In this regard, we have committed to increasing oil and gas production by 300,000 barrels per day by the end of the year. At home, we have instructed the Competition Bureau to ensure there is no collusion around gas pricing, and we are working to ensure that we are putting money back in the pockets of Canadians through the Canada Child Benefit, tax cuts for the middle class, and other items to ensure we are addressing the affordability.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, this morning in my riding, the price of gas went up to $2.24. I've never seen this before, and this is the reality affecting all Canadian families in my riding and across the country. And when prices go up, taxes go up as well. The government makes more money. However, what sets Canada apart from other countries such as Germany, England, Australia, and other countries is that they have lowered gas taxes. How come the Liberal government is refusing to do so? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to continue in the same vein as my colleague with respect to carbon tax. In 2007, Harper government suggested a $15 increase. Then they changed ideas in 2011 and said, no, that we won't do anything with respect to climate change. And then, surprise, during their last election campaign, the Conservative Party proposed once again to support carbon tax, and now they no longer support it. What the Canadians want is action on climate change, not flip-flopping every day. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. What Canadians want, Mr. Speaker, is clear. They want efficient policy to fight inflation. The government is filling its pockets with gas prices because taxes are rising and money is going out of Canadians' pockets. There are other countries are lowering such gas taxes. How come Canada can't do so? The Honourable Minister, rather Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, we're seeing that the Conservatives have to pick a lane they need to pick a position. Half the time, they're talking about the deficit and they're complaining about the government's response. And the other half of the time, they're praising costly programs proposed by other governments elsewhere. So what are they really defending, the Conservatives? We need a responsible fiscal position.
McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unfortunately, Canadians need answers, not talking points. People in my riding and in northern and rural communities all across Canada have to drive just about everywhere. Fuel prices are at record highs, which is making life harder for all Canadians. When will the government drop the talking points, do the right thing, and drop the GST on fuel and make life more affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the honourable colleague knows, the unjustified invasion of Ukraine by Russia has driven up energy prices around the world. This government is working actively with our partners in the United States and with other countries around the world to ensure we are increasing supplies to stabilize energy pricing globally. We are also working actively within this country to ensure that we are addressing affordability challenges. This opposition voted against tax cuts for the middle class. They voted against the Canada Child Benefit. They voted against daycare programs, all of which are aimed at ensuring the affordability for Canadians from coast to coast to coast.
The honourable member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' high taxes and high inflation policies are hurting Canadians. Sean, a veteran and a constituent in my riding, recently emailed me to say that as a result of the carbon tax and the impact of inflation, he has had to sell his home in order to get by. Sean's home was his nest egg and safety net for the future. But thanks to this Prime Minister's policies, it is gone. Will the Prime Minister acknowledge the harm his policies are having on Canadians like Sean?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our plan is designed so that the majority of households in Canada receive more money from the climate incentive payment that they pay. This has been confirmed through the analysis of the Parliamentary Budget Officer, Mr. Speaker. As carbon prices increase, these payments also increase. For example, this year, a family of 4 will receive up to $745 in Ontario, $830 in Manitoba, $1,100 in the member's province of Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker, and more than $1,000 in Alberta. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, La Matisse, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, it's official. 2021 is the most violent year in a decade for Montreal. The police have released their annual report and they're compiling over 25,000 crimes against people. Shootings doubled over the previous year. Mr. Speaker, at the heart of this wave of violence are organized crime groups and their illegal weapons. The federal government can't stop at restricting legal guns. It's the illegal guns that plague Montreal. Will the minister admit that C-21 does not solve this problem? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I agree entirely with my colleague. Shootings and tragedies related to gun violence are unacceptable rather, and I'm pleased to work together with my Bloc colleagues. But the question before the House now is Bill C-21. I'm impatient to start debate on this legislation because measures in this bill can better protect all communities and Canadians. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Avignon-La-Matisse-Matane. Mr. Speaker, the freeze on legal handguns is a step forward, but in terms of illegal guns, let's face the reality. Members of crime don't buy their guns at the store. And they're the ones who made 2021 the most violent in Montreal. The minister can increase prison sentences, but we still need to be able to arrest these criminals and seize their illegal weapons. But the numbers show that we haven't done that by 2021. Organized crime is not worried. Does the minister realize that? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my colleague is very right. This bill is a significant step forward. Why? It introduces a national ban on handguns. Why? Because it introduces criminal sanctions for organized crime. Why? Because we can take the necessary steps to reduce intimate partner violence. These are concrete measures. We need this bill to protect all Canadians. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, we have to give police additional means to act, and one of these is the Bloc's proposal to create a registry of criminal organizations. This would ease the burden of proof when police want to lay charges against organized criminals. With 2021 being the most violent year in 10 years in Montreal, the minister no longer has the luxury of depriving the police of such a tool. Does the minister realize that this sad record forces him to take up our proposal to create a registry of criminal organizations? The Honourable Minister. Obviously, Mr. Speaker, that's exactly the reason why we introduced our legislation, C-21. And as I already said, I'm always ready to work with my colleagues. I agree with the visions and ideas that they have put forth. But at the same time, we have to study this legislation. And it's really bad that the Conservatives has started disputes and have delayed this debate. We have to move forward with this debate. We have to adopt this legislation as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Well, member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, under this government, Canada is becoming less and less safe. The Liberals have brought in Bill C-5, legislation that is soft on gun crime, while the Supreme Court has ruled that you can drink your way out of a conviction for a serious crime and receive a discounted sentence for multiple murders. It's about time that the Liberals put victims first. Will this government provide a legislative response to these court rulings?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, our hearts go out to victims, and we will always stand with victims. With respect to the Supreme Court ruling on serious intoxication, Mr. Speaker, we're looking carefully at that ruling. The court has presented us with a number of different options, and I have already said publicly that we will evaluate those options and come back to this place. Mr. Speaker, serious crimes in this country will always carry serious consequences. The failed tough-on-crime Conservative policy needs to be put in the past, and that's precisely what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, this Supreme Court ruling means that the killer of 3 Mounties in Moncton, New Brunswick, has had his parole ineligibility reduced from 75 years to 25. This will put the victims' families through future misery. Will this government respond?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our hearts go out to families and communities that suffer from the ravages of multiple murders, Mr. Speaker. The Supreme Court ruling is clear, Mr. Speaker, and unanimous, Mr. Speaker. We have said and we have pointed out that the ability of a mass murderer to get parole is extremely rare. Celebrated mass murderers like Paul Bernardo do not get parole, Mr. Speaker, and the system is in itself one that punishes criminals seriously.
The Honourable Member for South Surrey, White Rock.
Mr. Speaker, not all mandatory minimum sentences have been struck down by the Supreme Court of Canada. Bill C-5 punishes legitimate gun owners and gives violent criminals a ticket back to ruining more lives. In Surrey, 2 men, including one wanted on a Canada-wide warrant for human trafficking, have been charged after Mounties seized a loaded handgun in a traffic stop. Mr. Speaker, violent repeat offenders should be taken off the streets. Yes. What does this government not understand about protecting victims and putting violent criminals behind bars?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, if my colleague had read the bill, what she would see is that this initiative takes organized crime head-on by raising maximum sentences against serious, hardened criminals who would terrorize our communities. I was in my honourable colleague's province just last week to speak with Eileen Moore, who lost her son some 15 years ago to gun violence. Unnecessary, harsh, needless, senseless violence. If my honourable colleague is interested in protecting her community, then she will vote for C-21. It enjoys the support of survivors. It enjoys the support of women's groups. It enjoys the support of law enforcement. We should all unite behind this bill because that's how we'll protect Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Mr. Speaker, Surrey, BC has seen a troubling spike in gun violence with 28 reports of shots fired and 3 confirmed deadly shootings by April of this year. Fatal gun violence by gangs linked to the drug trade continue to rise in my riding, putting our community in jeopardy. Yet this government chooses to play politics instead at the expense of people's lives. Why does the Prime Minister refuse to protect victims, often racialized and Indigenous Canadians, by the way, by ensuring repeat violent offenders go to jail for their crimes?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, what playing politics looks like in this chamber is rather than allowing for debate to commence on Bill C-21, stalling it, filibustering it, which is exactly what we saw last Friday and which we're pretty sure we're going to continue to see from Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. But notwithstanding that, we're going to continue to have this debate, Mr. Speaker.
Can we continue? I'm going to ask the Honourable Minister to take it from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, what politics looks like in this chamber is when there's filibustering, which is exactly what the Conservatives engaged in last Friday when we were supposed to start debating Bill C-21. What we need to do, Mr. Speaker, is move forward with a national freeze on handguns. We need to move forward with the tools that will allow us to take organized crime and gun violence on, Mr. Speaker. And I'll tell you something, when you actually look at the Conservatives on this issue, they have no plan except for legalizing AR-15s and assault-style rifles, which would make our communities more dangerous. Our bill will protect communities. That's why they should vote for it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, security workers continue to bear the brunt of the chaos at our airports. In Vancouver on Friday, I met directly with airport workers who told me about missed breaks, excessive overtime, and low wages. It's no wonder this government is having trouble filling positions. Now in Amsterdam, the public airport just reached a deal with the union that sees a pay raise during the busy summer travel season. But this government leaves workers at the whim of private contractors. Will the minister tell us, is he concerned about the work conditions faced by our airport workers? Does he even care?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, of course our government is concerned about working conditions for all employees, including those who work for CATSA. We are also concerned about the experience of travelers, and my honourable colleague mentions Amsterdam. Let me read this headline, Mr. Speaker. Amsterdam Airport boldly asked airlines to cancel flights to alleviate chaos. Mr. Speaker, we are witnessing a global phenomenon, and in order for us to serve the public properly, we need to increase resources, be there, working with the airlines, working with the airports, working with CATSA to ensure that we address these issues, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, it's been over 100 days since the illegal war in Ukraine, and this government still isn't transparent on sanctions imposed on Russian oligarchs. Global Affairs won't tell us what assets have been frozen because they say their data may not be complete. So the government doesn't know what's been sanctioned. Canadians don't know what's been sanctioned. Mr. Speaker, do the Russian oligarchs being sanctioned know what is being sanctioned? When will the finally tell us the number and the amount of assets seized so Canadians can tell if the government's plan is actually working?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And one thing that has brought this House together over these last number of months is our solidarity and our support for Ukraine and our condemnation of the illegal invasion by Russia into Ukraine. And what we have also done is work in an unprecedented fashion, bringing sanctions against Russia to level that playing field, to bring Russia down as we lift Ukraine up in this battle of their lives. Those sanctions are unprecedented. We've used since February February 24th, we have leveled sanctions at individuals, entities, over 1,400 of them, and we will continue to do that until the job is done.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Mr. Speaker, on April the 7th, our government put forward its plan to make life more affordable for Canadians through the 2022 budget. A top area of concern in my riding of Kitchener South Hespeler is the issue of housing affordability. We know that Canadians deserve a safe place to call home and that it should be affordable. Can the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance tell us what the government is doing to make the dream of owning a home a reality for more Canadians?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank the honourable member, my colleague, for her question and for the very hard work that she is doing for her constituents. We are committed to making housing more affordable for all Canadians, and that's why the budget included a tax-free first home savings account, a ban on foreign buyers for 2 years, a one-time payment of $500 to help people in need, $1.5 billion to support new housing co-ops, and a new $4 billion housing accelerator fund. I look forward to working with my colleague on these important projects.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
Mr. Speaker, the government clearly does not know their own policies with respect to travel on federally regulated boats. The Marine Atlantic policy clearly states that travel is open to unvaccinated Canadians because the voyage is less than 24 hours and it is essential. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, all plane trips in the world are less than 24 hours, and also the Parliamentary Secretary's assertion that the hardy folks of Newfoundland will spend the entire voyage outside in the North Atlantic in their winter time is nothing short of ridiculous. Canadians need a commitment that this government will put an end to their hypocritical and vindictive political mandates.
Parliamentary Secretary for the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the hard work and the advocacy of the member opposite. As I said yesterday, it's a lot different traveling on a boat and on a plane when we're in an airplane, we're in a confined space, sitting right next to somebody, like we are here in the House of Commons. That's why we on this side wear masks. But when you're on a ferry, you can be far, far more socially distant. You can go outside. Windows are available. Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't recommend opening the window when you're up in the air. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Cumberland Colchester.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, the other thing we hear from the government is lots of statistics with respect to health care. 6,000 people, Mr. Speaker, die every month from heart disease. 3,500 people die from diabetes. 7,000 die monthly from cancer. 600 people die every month from overdose, which is 4 times the amount pre-pandemic. Clearly, these numbers are meant simply for context. These diseases are a reality in our lives, but Canadians do not live in fear. It's time for us to learn to live with COVID also. These mandates are clearly political science, not medical science. Isn't that right, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not a medical doctor like the member opposite, but I would take note of the fact that he's just referred to a few deadly diseases. However, COVID-19 is one.
I'm just going to interrupt for a moment there. So I'm sure the honourable member for Cumberland Colchester wants to hear the answer, but we can't hear it if people are talking or shouting. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said, I'm not a medical doctor like my colleague opposite, and we have been collaborating on the Health Committee. However, I don't think that just because Canadians die, unfortunately, from things like coronary artery disease, like stroke and heart attacks, means that COVID-19 is less of a priority for this government. COVID-19 is beatable with vaccines and social distancing, wearing masks. We can beat COVID-19, but we need everybody in this House to participate.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
The Prime Minister and this government continue their hypocrisy and virtue signaling with their vindictive mandates as airports are in disarray, people are blocked from traveling, and others remain unable to return to their jobs. We'll hear in their response that they're following the science, but let me offer a quote on the government's mandates from a well-known infectious disease specialist, Dr. Isaac Bogosh. Quote, "At the end of the day, the current policy probably isn't doing a whole lot, end quote. Their mandates aren't stopping the spread. They're not saving lives. They're hurting Canadians. When will the Prime Minister and this government end the mandates?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his collaboration on the Health Committee as well. I was also there when we heard from Dr. Bogosh, who has been a consistent and sage advocate for vaccines from the first day of this pandemic, and he was this morning on the news as well. It is incontrovertible that vaccines will continue to save lives in this country. Only in the last month, Mr. Speaker, over 1,800 Canadians died from COVID-19. We cannot wish COVID-19 away. We must continue to be vigilant. We must continue to ensure that our neighbours are aware of where they can get a third and a fourth dose, and we must be wearing our masks when we're in public.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Well, I'd encourage the Parliamentary Secretary to take a...
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes is trying to ask a question, and his own side is over. I'm not sure what they're doing. Let's keep it down, and let's let the Honourable Member ask his question. The Honourable Member, please rise.
Mr. Speaker, they're excited to tell the Parliamentary Secretary that he should offer that advice to the Prime Minister, who's out not wearing his mask when he's in enclosed spaces, but he has people wear them when he doesn't. So now that we've heard political spin, let's hear from another infectious disease specialist, Dr. Neil Rao. Quote, the policy seems to lag the science, and it's become incredibly political, end quote. It's well past the time for the Prime Minister and this government to accept that dividing Canadians and pitting neighbour against neighbour was wrong. People want their jobs back, they want to travel, they want to be able to visit with their families. Is the Prime Minister finally ready to drop the politics of stigmatization and division and end the mandates?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, and of course Dr. Neil Rao is renowned in my community as well. He's helped my mother, and when I was traveling a lot, he supported our team when we were traveling. He's a very good infectious disease doc, but I would posit that it's this side that's making this political. Vaccines aren't political. They're not controversial. These vaccine mandates have done a very good job, and of course, all of the regulations and all of the public health restrictions are constantly being reviewed, as they will be. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, in Bill 96, Quebec made federally regulated businesses subject to the Charter of the French language, but federal Bill C-13, the Liberals' bill, contradicts Bill 96 by giving businesses a choice, therefore making French optional. And for the Quebec Community Group Network, offering a choice is already too much. They came yesterday to demand that only the federal law would apply so that businesses can continue to operate in English only. Does the minister believe that her allies, like this Quebec Community Groups Network, care one iota about the decline of French in Quebec? The Honourable Minister of Official Languages. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank my colleague for the question. Mr. Speaker, I've said it many, many times that we are recognize that there is a decline in French in Quebec, in Canada, including Quebec. That is why we have a bill that is ambitious to ensure that we can do our fair share. The federal government wants to take its responsibilities seriously to ensure that we can do everything to address this situation because it's an absolute priority for this government. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Mr. Speaker, English is not in danger in Quebec nor anywhere else on the planet. But that's what the English Montreal School Board believes, and they have announced that they will challenge Quebec's Bill 96. They have, in fact, called on all like-minded groups to come and help them fund this challenge. My question to the minister is simple. Does she believe, like us, that English Montreal should not receive a single penny of taxpayers' funds to challenge Bill 96 in Quebec? The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, once again, we've been very clear. Our government is the first federal party to recognize a decree of French in Quebec and in Canada. We have a bill to address the situation. But, Mr. Speaker, what's really disappointing is that yesterday in the Official Languages Committee, for the first hour of the committee, we saw a waste of time occur. Instead of taking the time needed to go through the bill and study it in depth, we saw the opposition banks, including the Bloc, do everything they could to waste the time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The honourable member for Montmagny, Lille, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, the number of shootings in the Greater Montreal region is increasing. Fear is taking hold in the streets of some neighborhoods. Kids are traumatized by shootings in broad daylight. And what is the government doing to resolve this situation? With Bill C-5, well, it removes the mandatory prison sentences for robbery with a firearm, extortion with a firearm, trafficking in weapons. This is the world turned upside down, Mr. Speaker. How is this government so soft on criminals? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, serious offenses will always have serious sentences. That what we're doing with C-5, Mr. Speaker, is quite different. We are targeting the overrepresentation of Black and Indigenous peoples within the criminal justice system. We're not, well, we are targeting offenses where public safety is not in question. Mr. Speaker, for serious offenses, we have Bill C-21, and I hope that the opposition will support the two bills at once. The honourable member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I would invite the Minister of Justice to listen to this quote. While the federal government is using the overrepresentation of Indigenous and peoples of diversity in our prisons to justify the abolition of many mandatory minimum sentences, it seems to forget one important fact, that the members of these same communities are equally overrepresented among the victims of these gun crimes. This quote comes from a statement by Muriel Chatelier, who's a member of the Black community in Montreal. Would the Prime Minister like to discuss Bill C-5 with her, or does he think she also is racist? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, this misinformation about Bill C-5 is very sad. We must remember that serious offenses will always have serious sentences. Here, with Bill C-5, Mr. Speaker, we're talking about infractions where public safety is not in danger. So we're giving a judge the flexibility to adapt a sentence in order to help society and victims as well. The honourable member for Arlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. When it comes from the Liberal benches, it's perfect. When it's from the opposition bench, it's misinformation. I'd like to know what the minister thinks about what the Quebec's Minister of Public Safety said when she announced her strategy to combat gun violence. She said, and I quote, "I'm speaking to the criminals terrorizing our citizens. Wherever you are, whoever you are, you will find our police officers standing in your way." Minister Guilbeault wants to enforce the law. It should be strictly enforced without the petty politics the Prime Minister is so fond of. So if Mr. Guilbeault shares our position and the Prime Minister considers our position racist, does he think that Minister Guilbeault and the Quebec government are racist as well? Before we continue, I would remind the members that when they ask questions and speak, they refer to the person not by their name, but rather by their title, even if it's a quote. I apologize if even the speaker sometimes makes a mistake. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I spoke a number of times with my counterpart, Minister Guilbeault, and we will continue to talk about Bill C-21. Minister Guilbeault announced his support for Bill C-21. He said it was a good step, a step in the right direction to protect Quebecers and even other Canadians. We need to start the debate on this bill and ensure we can introduce measures to protect all Canadians, and I hope that the Conservatives will change direction now. The honourable member for Alfred Pelin. Mr. Speaker, the Government of Canada is committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by at least 40% by 2030. Farmers are at the forefront of climate change, and their actions are critical to ensuring that Canada can achieve its climate goals. Can the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food tell the House about the latest initiatives put in place to help farmers reduce their greenhouse gas emissions? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister of Agriculture. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honourable member for the question. You know, the Canadian agricultural sector is an important partner in our fight against climate change, and that is why I recently announced over 47 projects across Canada for clean technologies with $15 million in funding. These projects will subsidize the purchasing costs of equipment that are energy efficient and other equipment that will help us to reduce our emissions and also invest in research and innovation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to ethics violations, this Liberal government has already reached the super elite status. Whether it's $1 billion sweetheart deal with the Weed Charity or SNC Lavalin bullying, clam scam nepotism, or the $200,000 illegal vacation by the Prime Minister, it's as though these Liberals are competing who can see and be the most unethical. Now the International Trade Minister knew Amanda Alvaro was a close friend who ran her election campaign, and yet she awarded her a $17,000 contract anyway. When will the minister quit blaming her own department officials and take ownership and responsibility for her own scandal?
Minister for International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, here are the facts. This contract was proactively disclosed to the public over 2 years ago. I was not involved in the awarding of it, and this contract was reviewed by the civil service to ensure compliance with the rules.
The honourable member for Selkirk Interlake Eastman.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the minister is being investigated by the Ethics Commissioner because she advanced the personal interests of her friend. Now we understand the Liberals need to pay a premium for spin doctors given all their scandals. But the Minister for International Trade is being investigated because she gave a $17,000 sole source contract to a CBC pundit who is her dear personal friend and former campaign organizer. This is ridiculous. Will the minister apologize for her unethical behavior and hand over all records on this contract to the Ethics Commissioner immediately?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, all information related to this contract was disclosed proactively 2 years ago. I might remind the honourable member that at the height of this pandemic, it was critical to ensure that our small businesses and our workers know what was available to them. And you know what? I think our record speaks for itself. 5,000 jobs were saved.
The honourable minister from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, all of the information related to this contract was proactively disclosed over 2 years ago. Let's remember that at the height of this pandemic, it was really critical that small businesses and workers and Canadians understood what was available to them in support. Now, the record speaks for itself. Over 5,000 jobs were 5 million jobs were saved as a result of the wage subsidy. And over 900,000 businesses got small business loans as a result of CEBA. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, the contracting authority must not issue multiple contracts against a single requirement or back-to-back contracts to the same supplier in order to avoid obtaining the approval required by statute. These are Treasury Board contracting rules. Yet the government has refused to address rampant splitting of contracts that benefit government insiders. An internal government document shows several hundred of these violations of the law. So would the President of the Treasury Board commit to the law or commit instead to Liberal insiders?
Well, President of the Treasury Board.
All TBS contracts are issued in concordance with the government contracts regulations, Treasury Board's contracting policy guidelines, and procedures. One of the fundamental principles of federal contracting is openness and providing suppliers with opportunities to submit bids for government contracts. When departments choose a non-competitive procurement strategy, it must be fully justified and recorded. From the perspective of value for money, the cost of awarding a contract outweighs any economic advantage associated with competing goods under $25 $25,000 and services and construction contracts under $40,000.
The honourable member for Cloverdale Langley City.
Mr. Speaker, in the 42nd Parliament, I introduced Bill C-374, an act to amend the Historic Sites and Monuments Act. This bill responded directly to Call to Action 79, to which calls for the development of a reconciliation framework for Canadian heritage and commemoration. It will also help to promote recognition and understanding of the history of Indigenous peoples, including their significant ongoing contributions to Canada. This ensures representation for Indigenous peoples on the Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada. Can the Minister of Environment and Climate Change tell this House how we're advancing on Call to Action 79?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate my colleague from Cloverdale Langley City for the important work he did on advancing this very important issue. The Historic Sites and Monuments Board of Canada plays a central role in our country's official historic designations. Ensuring representation for Indigenous peoples on the board is an important step in responding to Call to Action 79. Today, I introduce Bill C-23. The strong legislative framework, the first of its kind in Canada, will help ensure Canada's treasured historic places are protected. The proposed legislation not only strengthens Indigenous voices at the table, but also provides flexibility to adapt and reuse historic places as sustainable ways of addressing the climate change crisis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, experts are clear that we won't control COVID until the world is vaccinated. Yet only 10% of people in low-income countries have received a vaccine, compared to 77% in high-income nations. The Liberals promised to send 200 million doses to COVAX, but fewer than 15 million have been delivered to date. Last year, the WHO said we stood on the brink of a catastrophic failure. Today, Doctors Without Borders say we've fallen off the cliff. Why are the Liberals failing to deliver for Canadians and the world?
Minister for International Development.
Canada has stepped up to vaccinate the world. In fact, actually, the 200 million doses that we have promised, we have actually been delivering to multiple countries across the world. In fact, actually, tomorrow I have another meeting with multiple nations to discuss on the next steps. This is also a supply chain issue as well. So we're making sure that we provide the appropriate therapeutics, but we also need to make sure that the misinformation that's in our own country doesn't spread, that's preventing the acceptance of vaccines around the world as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, tomorrow members of all parties have a chance to send Bill C-248, Ojibwe National Urban Park, to committee. It has the support of Windsor and, most importantly, Caldwell First Nations. It's their territory. Their voices need to be heard. Caldwell has waited for years for this park to become a reality, and Chief Duckworth has written a letter to every MP requesting that this bill move forward. But the government is putting up needless obstacles. Will the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations stand up for Caldwell First Nations, or will he side with petty politics and shut them out?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister for the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable colleague for his question, and in fact, I stood in this House to announce that we were moving ahead with this very project, Mr. Speaker. I would hope that he would be happy about that, as we are on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. We have and we will continue to work with Indigenous people to build and co-manage national park in this country. Thank you very much.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today's questions. Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there's an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of the victims of the church attack in Nigeria. J'invite les honorables députés.
I ask honourable members to rise.
Thank you. The honourable member for Edmonton Griesbach is rising on point of order or has a request. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. There have been consultations amongst the parties, and if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent for the following motion. That, in the opinion of the House, the government should recognize that A, young people, particularly Indigenous, Black, racialized, disabled, and 2S LGBTQI+ youth face the most significant and severe impacts of climate change, yet are left out of the decision-making spaces. And B, it, along with the House, has an opportunity to build inclusive and intergenerational decision-making processes around the climate crisis and ensure young people are integral decision-makers by making immediate investments in training young people and equipping them with the skills and resources to lead climate solutions, including, but not limited to, employment opportunities, finances, mentorship, educational grants, and scholarships for climate-related fields, and equitable access to opportunities and training for youth in remote areas.
All those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. No. Nay. Okay, I'm afraid we don't have that. Okay, before we go to the point of order, and I'll be right with the honourable member for Windsor West in a second, I'd just like to remind the honourable members, if they are seeking unanimous consent, please consult the other parties before bringing it to the chamber, just to make sure that we do have that unanimous consent, and we will have a lot more positive outcomes. The honourable member for Windsor West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe there was consultation, but that's another story. With regards to my question, I have a document here from Caldwell First Nations, and both official languages I would like to table for the benefit of all members here, seeing that the Minister of Indigenous Affairs did not rise to answer my question.
Those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Nay, I'm afraid we don't have unanimous consent on that either. It being 3:20, pursuant to order made on Thursday, November 25th, 2022, the House will now proceed to the taking of deferred recorded division at the report stage of Bill C-19. Convoquez les députés.
Call on the members.
Sir. La mise aux voix porte sur la motion numéro 1. Le vote sur cette motion.
Vote number 1, also applicable for motion 2.
Mr. Albus, seconded by Mr. Lawrence, moved that Bill C-19 be amended by deleting Clause 52. The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started, and the House will now proceed to the vote for members participating in person. Que tous ceux qui appuient la motion veuillent bien.
All those in favor of the motion will please say yay.
Hello.
Ms. Bergen.
Ms. Bergen.
Mr. Paulus.
Mr. Paulus.
Mr. Deltel.
Mr. Deltel.
Mr. Bazan.
Mr. Bazan.
Mr. Barlow.
Mr. Barlow.
Mr. Chong.